The sun had already set by the time I let Alexis out of the basement. I stood beside him as I watched him open the doors. I was quite curious to know how he would open them, since they were apparently unbreakable. Alexis paused at the first door and warned me.
As long as you are gentle and honest with them, they won't harm you.
Who do you mean? Alexis placed both of his hands on the door, ignoring my question. He mumbled to himself. After a few seconds, the door that hadn't so much as budged for me opened with a creak. I can't believe my eyes. Ah! I'm taking a screenshot of that. That was a lovely little scene. As the door opened, loud music exploded out. This was the only way I could describe it. Clapping, tambourines, pounding drums, and lyrics came together to create a cacophony of noise. 4 little ones danced to the rhythm, each facing the blazing fireplace. I didn't hear anything from the other side of the door earlier. The little ones became frightened when they noticed us, hurriedly dispersing and hiding behind chairs or below the table. Hello, I'm Ekaterina Ivanova. It's Ivanova. That's Ivanova. Yeah, she's Ivanova. Ivanova. The little ones parodied my name. I'll be the caretaker of this tower for 1 year, starting now. How shameless! Shameless. Yeah, it was abandoned. Abandoned. The little ones weren't exactly welcoming. What should I do? There was nothing for me to be sorry about. I should remain aloof. Though I didn't know the reason they seemed angry with me, I should apologize. Ooh, this is actually a tough one for me because there is nothing to be sorry about, but also this. I think I'm most on this because, I'm new here and maybe we just got off on the wrong foot. I'm sorry that this place was poorly managed. You aren't being honest. Dishonest. Liar. Liar. The little ones were furious despite my apology. One by one, they scuttled towards the fireplace. For fear of seeing them burn themselves, I rushed to stop them. But then the flame died out on its own. I questioned Alexis while I was watching the little ones walk into the unlit fireplace. Is this my fault?
Indeed.
Whoops. Who are they?
The elves.
When I stared at Alexis, he cleared his throat and continued.
They don't generally live in groups in humans' homes. They simply play around in empty houses until someone moves in. This place, however, has been empty for quite a long time.
I have no idea how long this tower has been vacant. I just got here. In any case, what you're saying is that they live in unoccupied houses. Then why are they criticizing me? Did they not enjoy living in this tower in the meantime?
They were offended because you introduced yourself as the caretaker.
That's what I am! How's that being dishonest?
They like clean houses that are well taken care of.
Oh, so I was like, maybe putting them down and saying that, I'm here to take care of it, because clearly you can't. Is that it?
Not dirty wrecks like this tower.
Oh. Regardless, now that the door was open, part of my goal had been achieved. I asked Alexis to open the other doors, but he refused.
Until you make good with the elves, I won't help you open the remaining doors.
What do you mean? You didn't mention that before.
You promised to look after me. That includes taking care of the elves who live in this tower.
His words were manipulative, but I couldn't risk losing my only chance to gain access to the rest of the tower. All right. Since I brought you here, I'll keep my word, la-di-da. I will settle things with them properly. Not because you told me to, but because I want to. Just tell me what to do. I don't know how to get them come back out. At my request, Alexis walked over to the fireplace and knocked on a brick 3 times.
Hello, elves. Will you come out for a minute?
One elf peeped out from the fireplace. What's the matter, Alexis?
Kate would like to speak with all of you.
Oh, she's a liar.
Kate is my partner.
She's a what? What
truly dislike
now? Alexis is good, even though bad.
She promised not to lie again.
Alexis signaled for me to step forward with a glance. I gently walked towards the fireplace. From the bottom of my heart, I apologize for what I said before. But to be completely honest with you, I still don't understand why you're so angry at me. Even if you dislike me, you only have to put up with me for 1 year, however. That's how long I must stay here. After that, I promise you'll have the tower back. The elf stared at me for a while, then stretched an arm out towards me. Is he inviting me for a handshake? As I took his hand, I felt marble against my palm. The elf whispered quietly, "We're here to read you about your car's extended warranty. Please take good care of Alexis. See you next time." The elf disappeared into the chimney. What he'd handed me was a candy drop. I peered at Alexis with a confused expression. He explained softly,
You may keep that. It's a gift for you as an offer of friendship.
"Ah." The candy had a strong bitter taste. Ew. Do elves enjoy deeply bitter flavors?
He pranked you.
Oh, great. Ha. I shouldn't yell at a child, should I? The tower's residents were certainly a challenge to get along with. As I surmised, the elves lived upon every floor of the tower. The ones in the pantry were having a snowball fight with flour. The ones in the bedroom were having a pillow fight, with blankets tied around their necks like capes while feathers flew everywhere. The ones in the bathroom were splashing around in a tub full of water. The ones in the library were throwing books at one another. Why can't elves just play nice? From bitter candy to rock-hard cookies and suspicious jellies, they gave me a wide variety of unappetizing sweets. Even so, they had gentle hearts. Each and every one of them whispered to me, "Please take good care of Alexis." Then they'd hand me those bizarre snacks of theirs. What was Alexis to the elves? After all of the doors, including the storage shed, had been opened, I brought Shadow inside. Forgive me, Shadow. I didn't mean to leave you outside all day. When she noticed Alexis standing beside me, she pressed her head against his chest. That gesture indicated she wanted a head pat. It was unusual for Shadow to do so with a person she'd only just met.
Hello, Shadow. You are certainly the courageous girl I heard you were.
Alexis stroked Shadow a couple of times, then turned to me.
Shall we grab dinner?
Yeah, let's. If I were to describe the tower to someone who had never seen it before, I would tell them the general structure wasn't too different from that of a castle. The main difference was that while a castle had the bedroom, kitchen and bathrooms on the same floor, this tower had each of them on different floors due to a lack of space. Therefore, the kitchen was on the second floor, the bedroom on the third, the washroom on the fourth, the library on the fifth, and so on. The pantry, which I remembered to be in chaos, was well organized, clean, and quiet when I returned from bringing Shadow into the tower. "Can you lend me a hand?" Alexis responded with exhaustion.
I don't have one to give. I told you, I can't lift a single finger in here.
Then what are those things attached to your arms and legs that move so freely, huh?
My hands and feet.
Talking to you is truly frustrating. Was it what the elves had meant when they told me to take good care of Alexis? That he is just gonna twaddle around and I have to do all the work? I handed him a bowl of beef stew, trying my best to hold back a bitter smirk. Here you go. I'm not a cook though, so I can't guarantee it will taste good.
Thanks.
He gently took the bowl, then started to drink straight from it. He coughed and spat out the hot stew.
Hot.
I did give you a spoon. You didn't think it was just for show, did you?
I don't know how to use one.
I am not feeding you, Alexis. This man was becoming more ridiculous by the second. How can a grown man not know how to use a spoon? I mean, we don't know his backstory. We don't know where he's coming from and how he was brought up. So let's teach him. Look closely. This is how you hold a spoon. You scoop the stew out like this and then eat it. Alexis observed me attentively and attempted to mimic my actions. He was so awkward about it that it took him hours to finish a single bowl of beef stew. It's like he's a baby. I can't remember it clearly anymore, but my nanny must have been the one who taught me how to use a spoon. Well, see, like that. We all, at one point, did not know how to use a spoon until someone else taught it to us. Did you not have anyone teach you?
That's a difficult question.
Well, give me a difficult answer then. I'll take anything at this point.
Perhaps there was. Perhaps there wasn't.
When you said you couldn't lift a finger earlier, did you mean that you were useless beyond imagination?
In a way, I suppose so.
Oh, great. He opened his palm.
Do you see my hand?
What about it?
My fingers.
What about them?
They're far too long.
That's no excuse. So?
They get in the way.
That depends on where you put him. This fellow was even worse than Igor in some ways. Fine. I won't question you again. I now realize that accepting you the way you are is far easier than trying to understand you. I've given up on that point, I exclaimed as I took his empty bowl. I will cook for you until you learn to do it. Alexis nodded.
I think I can learn if I study it from a book.
Screw study from a book. Let's learn by doing here, Alexis. Why do I get the feeling we'll have to start with the alphabet? That was how my first day at the tower ended, with the ominous feeling that my future would be far more challenging than anticipated. If you were ever to celebrate your coming-of-age ceremony at the Winter Tower, you would find yourself welcomed by doors sealed with piles of snow. And magic, apparently. A horse glued to the fireplace who would refuse its feet with hostility. And elves that fought you for the jar of sugar cubes. Not only the elves, of course, but a certain man might try to steal the jar as well. Alexis! How many times have I told you that sugar is for shadow?
It's as I told you, Kate.
Alexis munched on the sugar cubes he'd taken from the jar, with the hand he supposedly can't lift.
I need a regular dose of sugar.
I'll give you a regular dose of sugar if you don't start behaving. The amount of sugar you consume every day is abnormal. You'll bleed syrup if you prick your finger at this rate.
Possibly.
I like the dialogue, it's actually kind of good.
Way, since I've never bled much.
Well, you know. I put my hand out demanding he give me the jar back. Alexis licked his lips with disappointment and grabbed a bag of crackers as he handed me the sugar jar. Have those if you need a snack. We have a limited supply of sweets here, unlike at the castle. You may take my portion of sweets, but I can't allow you to take shadows.
But crackers are dry and awful.
Well, deal with it. I sighed heavily as I watched Alexis grumpily nibble on the crackers. Why do you and the elves love sweets so much?
Have you never heard the story?
What story?
The one about how snow is God sprinkling sugar crystals onto the planet.
Why sugar instead of salt?
Salt is disgusting. Even God prefers sugar.
If you said that in front of a priest, you'd be branded a heretic. Alexis choked on a cracker. He hastily massaged his throat and reached for a glass of water.
What I mean to say is the elves were born that way. It's natural.
Alexis emphasized his words for effect.
Elves to the very core love sweets, pranks, and
Alexis! Suddenly, the fireplace went cold and an elf jumped out. Alexis turned to the elf and regarded them calmly.
What brought you here all by yourself? Where is your partner?
I turned to the fireplace as the elf rushed to grab something. However, he was not strong enough to pull it out. Alexis reached into the chimney to help, to no avail, because Alexis is fucking useless. Nor was I helpful in assisting the two of them. I did try, however. Whatever was in the chimney was properly jammed in there. We need an extra hand. Who should I call for help? I mean, Romanov ain't here. Father is unconscious. Shadow's here, but... Does Shadow have a hand? I will get Shadow. Shadow! Shadow pretended she didn't hear me, busy looking for something more engaging. How could you? I was sure Alexis's laziness had begun influencing her. Shadow, if you help me pull this out, I will treat you to a whole bag of snacks. It was the word snacks that finally moved her. Just you wait, Shadow. When it gets warmer, I will retrain you properly. I took a deep breath before shouting. Pull on the count of 3. 1, crack. 2, crackle. Though I heard something cracking, there was no turning back now. 3! Almost there, but we need more force. What should I do? Apparently Shadow was the strongest out of us 4. How can I convince Shadow to pull harder? Frame whatever this thing is for stealing Shadow's snacks. That would be dishonest. Tell her that she'll be rewarded with more snacks. Well, that's not the way to... That's sort of like bribing. Oh well. Shadow, I'll give you as many snacks as you want. But she still seemed disinterested. It appears she wouldn't fall for the same trick twice. How can I convince Shadow? Okay. I guess we're framing someone. Shadow, this thing the chimney is the one who stole all your snacks. Nay! Shadow... Oh my god, that was so bad. Shadow neighed at the top of her lungs and pulled with a force of might I'd never witnessed in my entire life. With a loud bang, the room was covered in soot. Cough, cough. Everyone coughed and sneezed incessantly due to the dust. I desperately reached to open the windows to ventilate the room. Soon the ashes settled and my vision cleared. Then I noticed that the only one still in decent shape was Shadow, who stood in proud triumph. The power of snacks sure is something. I gave Shadow a pat on her neck and fed her sugar cubes one by one. Alexis, on the other hand, looked abysmal. He picked up the crackers that he had dropped and gradually approached the spherical object in the corner of the room.
Is this your partner?
The elf gave an affirmative nod. Only elves and smoke could pass through this chimney, but this fellow was rounder than the ones I was used to seeing. The only thing that gave this sphere away were his pointy hat and the face below it. I've seen those odd eyebrows somewhere before. Hey, you're the thief who stole our sugar cubes a couple of days ago. The elf, now that his crime had been revealed, waved his arms and legs in an attempt to run away. However, the most he could do was struggle to keep his balance. Wow. I didn't expect my random excuse would turn out to be true. He was like the other elves a few days ago. What could have happened to him between now and then? Alexis, I have a question for you here.
All right.
Is turning into a giant ball, becoming round like him, part of an elf's maturation?
This is the effect of snow sugar disease.
I'm gonna feed less sugar to Shadow now. Snow sugar disease?
Remember when I told you that snow was God sprinkling sugar crystals onto the planet?
Wasn't that only a story?
Well, real snow certainly doesn't taste as sweet.
Alexis licked his lips, as if he were disappointed by his own words.
Even so, snow and sugar look very similar, don't they?
Not really. From a distance, yes, if you squint your eyes and
If elves don't regularly ingest sweets, they become like this.
So what you're telling me is this one turned to a ball because the lack of intake of sugar. I've seen people become overweight because they ate too many sweets, but never the other way around. Alexis gave me a strange look.
Aren't they the same thing?
In what way, I don't know anymore.
The elves' main source of energy is sugar, just as grains are for humans.
In any case, do you have a solution? Alexis nodded.
I understand that this will be difficult for you, my friend. However, you won't be able to climb through the chimneys in your condition. You barely made it out of this one.
Alexis pointed at the messy fireplace.
You're banned from eating any more snow sugar until you're back to normal.
A single teardrop fell from one of the elf's eyes. The elf who was banned from eating snow sugar went crazy baking himself sweets and pastries to eat every day. Because I stopped allowing the elves to use the sugar kept in the tower, where he found all that sugar was beyond me. To my surprise, the elf's neck was visible after only 2 days of treatment. Then his legs after 3 days and his arms after 10. The treatment for snow sugar disease seemed effective until the elf entered the sedentary phase. He could barely fit the width of the chimney. For half a month, the elf continued his strict diet, which was heavily based on sugar, of course. Since it was their primary source of energy, it was the equivalent of a human eating only bread for 3 meals a day. He began to look somber. I don't blame him. I noticed the darkness in the elf's eyes in the afternoon that day. It had been warm since the morning, and I was on my way back from taking a whiny shadow for a walk. I went into the pantry to get sugar cubes for her when I noticed Alexis speaking to the elf and taking away his honey biscuits. Next, Alexis shoved the biscuit into his own mouth. That wasn't the end of it. He snatched all the cookies and sweets the elf had baked and threw them into a cracker bag. The elf stood there helplessly as he watched Alexis take his desserts. He baked those! What are you doing? But also, Alexis does seem like he knows what he's doing with the elves, so... But no, that's with the Alexis! You shouldn't steal desserts from the elves just because I told you not to steal from Shadow. Alexis didn't bat an eye when I yelled at him.
He shouldn't be eating these.
Didn't you exactly just say that he should? Because otherwise he would be eating snow and that's bad? What nonsense is that? Return those desserts immediately and never do this again or else I'll take away your crackers. Alexis remained silent for a moment, then posed a question.
Do you really want me to?
I don't know. Is that even a question? Alexis sighed deeply before returning everything he'd taken from the elf. Everything seemed perfect on the surface. However, the problem eventually reared its head back. Is Alexis stealing the elf's desserts behind my back? I kept an eye out for Alexis, but he seemed to have lost interest in the elf after I scolded him. I assumed he lost interest because the elf had been instructed not to consume snow sugar, but Alexis was the one who began losing weight. Alexis?
Yes?
Have you been eating snow? His voice sounded fragile. Why do you think the elf isn't recovering from snow sugar disease?
Because no one is keeping an eye on him.
But he is still making himself sweets and pastries. Isn't that the healthy diet you so mentioned?
Not all sweets are healthy.
Well, that's just complicated at this point. Alexis walked over to the pantry and returned with 1 jar of honey and 1 jar of sugar cubes.
What do these look like to you?
Honey and sugar?
Did you know that honey is made from sugar?
Is it? Honey is made by bees and sugar is processed from sugarcane. Are you implying otherwise?
You can use sugar to create a honey-like substance.
Yeah, but that's called caramel. That's not honey.
Does that make it real honey?
No. Artificial honey made from sugar? That's a lot like how Igor pretends he's the rightful family successor. Well, yeah. The answer's no.
Are biscuits made using fake honey real honey biscuits?
No. Isn't it basically the same thing since they're both just used for sweetness? Alexis smiled bitterly.
You only put it that way because you aren't interested in sweets. If someone created a replica of your ring, would both your ring and the replica be considered real?
Well, real in the sense that they exist, yes. Of course not. These rings are symbols of my family. They have a vast, rich history.
Honey biscuits also have a vast, rich history.
I sincerely doubt it, Alexis, but indulge me. After finishing his explanation, Alexis put the honey jar and sugar jar back where they belonged, without taking a handful of sugar cubes.
Elves must eat only sweets that strictly follow recipes developed for them.
Do you mean to say all those sweets the elves ate were bad for him, even though they looked the same?
That is correct.
Why didn't you tell me that before? Alexis stared straight at me.
This question again?
You
You asked me that on the first day we met.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Alexis. I thought I was speaking. Did you assume I wouldn't believe you again?
You aren't concerned about what the elves eat.
Of course I am!
You don't even bother to find out what they like or do as long as it doesn't disturb you.
I assume he likes them since he just baked them for himself and is continuously eating them.
As I've already told you clearly, those sweets aren't good for them.
I didn't know. You didn't know how to use a spoon, so shut your face. On second thought, Alexis wasn't the kind of person to bully and steal desserts from an elf. That's what I said and thought, but I still... I'd misunderstood Alexis, and it was all because I hadn't shown any interest in him or the elves. Never before had I felt too ashamed to apologize. Yet for some reason, I couldn't open my mouth. It was as if my lips were glued shut. In the end, I didn't give a single word of apology. I decided to focus on helping the elf recover from snow sugar disease instead. I eventually got the hang of distinguishing real desserts from fake ones by continuously reviewing the recipes in the library. Growing up in the castle, I was raised on the finest cuisine. Differentiating between fake honey and real honey or snow sugar from real sugar wasn't much of a challenge once I learned the trick. Every dessert the elf baked used snow sugar. He must have done it intentionally. The more my memory jogged, the more furious I became. The elf must not have expected me to react. His expression became blank as I took away his desserts. You must have had so much fun eating those desserts behind my back every day. I loathe the people who disobey my orders and try to trick me. Today I'll teach you a lesson you won't soon forget. Okay, let's maybe not go diabolical on the elf. I gave Shadow and the elf an angry grin. The plan was to use a traditional method of encouraging a desired behavior. See, that's good. The carrot and stick After exactly 10 days of my training program, don't see it as a training program, I was able to get both Shadow and the elf in proper shape. The elf handed me an armful of snacks and desserts, then ran to the fireplace. Alexis?
Kate.
Alexis had become even thinner recently. I handed him a recipe book I found in the library. Would you like to try to read this book, Alexis? I'll help you with the difficult parts.
Sure.
A white pigeon pecked at the frozen window. I let it in while rubbing at my tired eyes. The pigeon landed atop my hand, carrying the cool scent of winter on its feathers. My family emblem was attached to the leather strap around its left leg, and a note was tied around its right leg. Who is this from? Have I been accepted into Hogwarts? Oh, Romanoff. I pocketed the note and tied the letter I had prepared ahead of time to its leg. I'd been exchanging letters with Romanoff like this once a week. If the pigeon didn't arrive after a month or carried a suspicious message, it meant that something had happened at the castle. The identity of the ring thief has been uncovered. The note delivered more information. 2 months was more than sufficient. Romanov had been distracting them, buying me 2 months' worth of time. Now that they knew I was the one who took the rings, they would try whatever they could to get them from me. Since they couldn't exactly command the Ivanov army to march here, they would likely opt to send a few select well-trained soldiers undercover. Oh my goodness! The kitchen was in chaos. It was as if there had been an explosion. The floor was covered in a mysterious fluid. A suspicious glowing pot extinguished the flame of the heart it was set upon. Huh? The elves were sweating in a panic, frozen to the spot. This was the scene I found after returning from a 2-hour walk. You better have a good explanation for all of this. The elves vigorously shook their heads when they met my glare. Not me. Me. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. From my own personal experiences with the elves, I knew they were poor liars. Who caused this mess? They wouldn't tell me who the culprit was. They even tried their best to avoid my gaze and act as if they couldn't hear me. If not the elves, however, there was only one other suspect. Alexis! Alexis walked down the stairs with a book in his hand. His calmness, in spite of the mess in the kitchen, gave him the air of a seasoned warrior. Unfortunately for Alexis, this was not a battlefield, nor was he a fighter.
Calm down. Getting all worked up like that is bad for your heart.
How could you make the kitchen this messy in the blink of an eye? See, that is bad for my heart, this mess. Alexis retrieved balls of soot from the glowing pot and placed them on the table.
Still far from perfecting the look of it.
What are you making? Coal? Charcoal? Alexis snapped at me.
How rude.
If you were making charcoals, I was gonna be like, hey, well done, you did it.
These are almond cookies.
The fuck they aren't. Cookies?
You'll understand if you taste them.
Listen, I have enough problems with Santa bringing me coal every year. Don't you start as well. You have to be joking.
Try one if you don't believe me.
Fine, I'll try the burnt ball. Since Alexis refused to eat anything that wasn't sweet, I might as well trust him. I chipped off a piece of the burnt mess, praying I'd be okay after I swallowed it. To my surprise, it did in fact taste like an almond cookie. Moreover, it had an excellent balance between creaminess and nutty texture from the almonds. It suited my taste perfectly, even though I wasn't a huge fan of sweets. The savoriness lingered on my taste buds for a long while. Cookies misshapen like balls of soot. Did you do it on purpose like those pranks the elves pull on me?
If only that were the case.
Alexis handed me a cup of tea as he watched me grab more of his soot balls.
I tried making them the way you taught me, but things ended up like this because I lost control of the fire.
The way I taught him? When in the world did I teach him to bake cookies in a pot? Alexis opened a book he had set aside and directed my attention to a specific recipe.
See here? It says keep stirring on a low flame.
Yeah?
How fast and how low should it be?
Doesn't that mean you should stir the pot on a flame that's close to extinguishing? At that moment, a realization struck me like lightning. Alexis, please don't tell me you were following these instructions in the most literal sense.
I was.
His naive, sparkling eyes put me in a cold sweat. Since cooking wasn't a necessary skill for succeeding my father's title, I never paid much attention to it. I hadn't anticipated that Alexis would take my suggestions so seriously. Frankly speaking, it was a miracle that he'd made cookies in a pot which was clearly only meant for soups and stews. Perhaps Alexis is naturally talented at cooking. He might have been inexperienced with the tools of the trade, but the quality of his final product spoke for itself. My staring at the charred cookies embarrassed Alexis. He cleared his throat and spoke.
I'll bake better-looking cookies next time.
There's nothing wrong with these ones. I mean, they look like charcoal, but they taste great, so they taste delicious. Plus, clearly my instructions weren't clear enough last time, so that's on me. Yeah, I meant it. And they go well with this tea.
Thank you for the compliment.
You're welcome. Alexis's voice was slightly brittle, but it was too subtle to decipher the exact reason behind that emotion. I would have had a wonderful afternoon once the chaos in the kitchen was taken care of, but the elves wouldn't allow for a single moment of peace. They began crawling out of the chimney one by one. Just give me a break. While ordinary elves' hats reached up to my thigh, the elf in front of me's hat barely reached up to the belt of the rest of them. Does this one have some sort of illness? I whispered into Alexis' ear.
No, they were only born recently.
Alexis picked up the baby elf and pressed their foreheads together, then whispered a blessing.
Hello. I am Alexis Yevgenik Strelnikov. Welcome to this sweet world.
The tiny elf giggled while happily tapping on Alexis's cheeks.
Kate, would you like to hold him too?
No. Yes. I can. Oh. Aww.
Here.
Alexis handed me the little elf while I was lost in thought. Unexpectedly, he felt very light. Hello. My name is Ekaterina Ivanova. Nice to meet you. He was very light and very small. The baby elf giggled and touched my face, as he'd done to Alexis. Every time his fingers brushed against my skin, sparkles drifted through the air. After lunch, I went out for a walk as an excuse to be alone. Though he did ask me to look after him, I couldn't organize my thoughts amid the flood of unnecessary mental images I created. I've certainly become lazier since arriving at the Winter Tower. I found this time of peace quite awkward, perhaps because I didn't need to follow a strict training regimen here. I kept up with my training every day, but it still felt as if I were lacking something important. Siren and her son must be up to something. Well, keeping up with my training is the best I can do for now. I won't let myself be shaken easily. Alright, time to head back. I had never gotten lost in the woods before. Yet I couldn't find the Winter Tower despite walking for quite a while. I had memorized my surroundings, so I was sure I hadn't wandered too far away. Even so, I was undeniably lost. I took a compass out of my pocket. Though I don't use this often, it's better than nothing. It was bizarre to find myself lost in the woods in spite of my instincts and experience telling me I was moving in the right direction. I walked in the direction the compass pointed towards. Yeah, that's what I did. I should mark the trees. I marked every tree I walked past. This way I wouldn't walk around in circles. This method, however, proved to be useless as well. It seemed as though I was moving in the opposite direction from what I had intended. When I turned left, I moved right and vice versa. My sense of direction is being messed with. There was no point in moving forward, so I decided to take a break under a tree. Luckily, I had my rapier strapped to my waist. I could defend myself if someone tried to attack me. I should stay alert in case of wild beasts. I wouldn't have been as worried about being chased if Shadow had been with me. Why did this happen to me? Shit. Well, I have no idea why this happened. This isn't the time to sit around and theorize about the cause of my condition. Uh-oh. Growls resounded from the nearby brush. There was quite a few of them. Judging by the sound, I was being accosted by a pack of hungry wolves. I stood up and wielded my rapier, ready for combat. While teaching me how to hunt, my father once told me the following. Even if I never went myself, I should at least understand the art of the hunt. Bring it on. An attack is coming from the right. So slash to the left, because everything she does is the opposite, right? Since my senses are reversed, I must slash to the left. I reflexively slashed my rapier to the right, so I had to sweat blood to swerve the blade. Ah! My reaction time was slowed because I had to think twice before acting. The wolf's fangs narrowly pierced my left thigh. Running away is too difficult right now, though I don't think I could lose them without Shadow's help either way. If this was Igor's scheme, I would have to compliment him for thinking with his brain for once. My agility has dropped because of my cut, but there was no time to stitch up. If I think about moving in any particular direction, I'll end up moving in the opposite direction. If I try to control the direction in reverse, my reaction time is slower. So, let's just follow my instincts instead of thinking. 1, 2, 3. There were exactly 13 wolf carcasses, each with their hearts pierced through. Damn! The rest fled when they realized I wasn't easy prey. If they didn't find an easier kill, there was always a chance they'd come back for me. Nonetheless, the threat disappeared from the time being. Good! The cut isn't deep. Blood dripped from the wound. I maintained a defensive position as I ripped a piece of cloth off my dress and used it to stop the bleeding. Had the fang cut my thigh any deeper, I might have found myself in critical condition. My strategy of relying on my instincts worked, fortunately. I hypothesized that if I acted with a specific direction in mind, some sort of spell would reverse my sense of direction. When I get back, I have to ask Alexis what he thinks about my condition. My vision blurred and spun around after that tough battle. My rising ears and short breath were signs of a low body temp. The torn clothing and severe bleeding answered my question of why I was in this condition. It'll be a problem if it gets any darker. I can't keep fighting in this state. If only Shadow were with me. She might slag off at times, but she would never ignore her partner being in danger. Even the elves might crowd around and make a fuss if they saw me like this. Perhaps Alexis would also be worried about me. Oh shit. The scent of my blood had attracted an even larger predator. Its round face and ears gave it a benign, innocent appearance. Yet the sharp black scales sticking out between patches of fur couldn't mask the ferocity of this beast. Isn't that bear an Armaros, known for their armor-like scales? On top of that, it looks hungry too. I'm in danger. What should I do? Fight, because then she will, run away. I targeted its eyes. Weren't you gonna do the opposite? Oh, piss. Although the strategy was something that couldn't be done on sheer instinct, I had no other choice. My chance of victory is high if I can pull this off. The starved bear roared fiercely and charged towards me. What kind of bear is this fast? A flick of its paw was all it required to deflect my rapier, leaving me defenseless. Damn it. I need to put distance between us. Before I could even readjust myself, the bear's front paw struck my head. If only I hadn't faced the bear head on. Bad ending, the hungry bear. No. Okay, so we're gonna flee here. A single blow was all it would take to kill me. Fighting a bear was too high of a risk to take. I need to flee this area now. I leapt to avoid the first blow. When I dodged the following blow as well, the bear roared in annoyance. It's charging forward. I managed to gather the strength to vault to the opposite side. The bear crashed into a tree at a frightening speed. With a terrible thought, the grand birch tree which took the hit fell to the ground. The impact didn't leave a single scratch on the bear, of course. I paid no attention to the fallen tree and turned its side back to me. It paid no attention to. That dodge from earlier caused my right leg to cramp. Not now. I would be turned into goop if I didn't act immediately. I raised my rapier with a shaky hand and took a deep breath. The moment the bear was about to charge for a second time, a sharp whistle caught the bear's attention. Alexis? There came Alexis, dashing towards us. He threw something amid the clopping of a familiar horse. While the bear was distracted by the object, Alexis hastily jumped off of Shadow and draped his cape over my shoulders.
I'm sorry I was late. Let's head back to the tower.
Alexis swiftly lifted me up and put me on the saddle, wasting not a single second. Like that, we fled the scene. Was Alexis always so strong? As if he feared that I might fall off the horse, he firmly held onto my waist. How silly. I would never fall off a horse even if I were injured. The elves sweated from sheer anxiety when they were met with by Alexis's solemn expression. He refused to joke around or smile. The tiniest elf in particular shed tears as large as his own eyes.
Your pranks put Ekaterina Ivanova's life in danger. You should have heeded my warning the first time. Regardless of how much you like human beings, you must never play pranks on them as you would to one another.
His warning reminded me of the drifting sparkles I saw when the baby elf touched me earlier. Perhaps they were indeed magical. The baby elf quietly listened to Alexis's lecture like a child being scolded by his father.
Being young is no excuse. Since you broke the rule and played a forbidden prank, you must now bear an equivalent punishment.
Wait, hey, what kind of punishment? Alexis paused for a moment.
That depends on the gravity of the wrongdoing. It can range from being as lenient as restricting their entry and exit from the chimneys, to one as severe as confiscating their hat.
Don't take their hat! The elves trembled like trees amid a storm at that last statement.
It may seem cruel, but there's no other choice. An elf must be responsible for their actions once they leave the fireplace.
Yeah, but we should also allow them to learn from their mistakes. Do you mean to say the elf may have to give away his hat?
It's as you suspect. Hats are like an elf's heart, and without it, he'll gradually cease to move.
Okay, let's maybe not. What will happen if he completely stops moving?
He will fall into an eternal sleep.
Okay, hold on.
At that point, he won't come back, even if his hat is returned.
The atmosphere was so heavy that I couldn't bring myself to respond. I understood why the elves were forbidden from playing serious pranks on humans. Though it was a dangerous prank, getting his hat taken away would be too harsh, I agree. It would have made me uncomfortable to see the baby elf have his hat, which was essentially his heart, taken away. I was positive that Alexis didn't want that to happen either. If I promise I'm okay, will you reduce the severity of his punishment, Alexis?
Ekaterina?
I patted the baby elf's tiny head. It is true that I may have been put in danger, but I don't think he intended to hurt me. Isn't that so? Yes. The baby elf gently nodded. Sorry.
You nearly died, Kate. Are you truly okay with this?
Alexis asked me again, almost as if he couldn't believe I made such a request. Why do you think I am? Who do you think I am? I was a little unsteady when I confronted the bear, but I wasn't about to keel over and die.
If you're positive, I suppose we can let it go this once.
Well, we're not letting it go, but we're teaching the newly born elf that, okay, this wasn't the best. Let's try not to do that again." The baby elf apologized countless times. His eyes were swollen from crying by the time he returned to the chimney. See, he understands that what he did was wrong, and he has now learned from it. No need to freaking like... Alexis's first aid skills were terrible. It was as if he'd never done it before. Following my instructions, he ineptly cleaned the wound, applied ointment to it, and then bandaged my leg. After the quick first aid, he made stew for dinner. My hunger was insatiable, so I gulped it down.
Kate.
Yes?
I'm sorry that you got hurt.
It wasn't your fault.
Quite the contrary. I was well aware young elves' pranks could go too far. Yet I let my guard down.
I pushed my empty bowl to the side and leaned back against my armchair. Alexis?
Yes?
When you said that elves would be punished if they played prohibited pranks, what you told me when we first met came to mind. It reminded me of your so-called punishment. You don't have to tell me what it is if you don't wish to. I just thought in that regard you and the elves were quite similar. I know that you're a human, but you like sweets like them, know so much about them, and they come to you for help, don't they? Like children running to their father. Aren't you also being punished for a mistake you made in the past? Alexis stared at the burning fireplace as she spoke.
A mistake? Perhaps it was. But I would make the same mistake all over again. Even if I were given a second chance.
Well, at that point, Alexis, I'm sorry to tell you it's no longer a mistake, now it's a choice. Alexis didn't explain further. I had no idea what this mistake of his was. I have another question for you, Alexis. What did you throw at the bear earlier?
A sweet. Our Marcy especially loves sweets.
Something you baked yourself? Did they turn out better this time? Instead of answering my question, Alexis handed me colorful meringue cookies with a cup of tea. I will try. Unlike the burnt cookies I had this morning, these meringue ones look decent. I picked an appealing pink meringue cookie and took a half bite. Alexis burst into laughter when I frowned. Seeing Alexis laugh like a kid eased me up.
I've always wanted to try that prank myself.
You sack of shite, Alexis. He was still his usual self. The man who loved sweets. The man who often spoke nonsense. The man who always took me seriously and never lifted a fucking finger around here. Alexis, I have a question for you. The winter wind whistled beyond the frozen windows. The warmth on Alexis's face faded.
Kate, I believe we have visitors.
Visitors? But the fireplace is still ablaze.
Not for me. They're most likely
They are most likely the Igor and whatever her face was.
here for you.